This footage is from the Samyang 24mm F2.8. Today we're going to be talking about this tiny little lens, the Samyang 24mm F2.8 full frame autofocus lens for Sony E-mount. So let's get right into this video with body design and impressions of this tiny little lens. Alright, just for size reference, I will have the Tamron 17-20H 28 F2.8, which is equivalent to the size of the 24GM right next to it this whole time. So just you can take a look at how it looks like. The Samyang is a plastic lens. This rear is plastic, even though it's painted silver. And the filter threads, the body, it's all plastic. It's very lightweight. It's a constant f2.8 and it goes to f22. The angle of view is 82.1 degrees. Minimum focus distance of 9.45 inch, 24 centimeters. Maximum magnification of 0.13x. It has 7 elements in 7 groups and 7 aperture blades. It's a 49mm front filter thread. The lens is 2.43 inches or 61.8 millimeters by 1.46 inch or 37 millimeters. It weighs in at a scant 120 grams, so it's very lightweight. I believe it's even less if you don't have the hood. There are no physical switches on the body, no AF toggle, there is no weather sealing, so it's just a bare bones plastic lens. For reference, the minimum focus distance is 24 centimeters, so from right about here to your camera, you can focus that close. Alright, here is a bokeh test. I'm recording with the 24GM and Samyang 24 F2.8. There is less bokeh, however, I think it's pleasing enough. And if you're not looking for the most blur in the world, then maybe this can work for you. I'm going to pan around the room just so you can see how it behaves, the bokeh. Alright, so I'm using active stabilization, so it's a little bit more cropped in, but I'm just hand holding it. It may look a little bit more narrow compared to the 24GM. Alright, in this next test, we'll go outside really quick just to test out flaring. Let's go. I'm testing the Samyang 24. And you can see that it does have a little bit of a flare weakness right there. Just at a certain angle, and you can see the flare get in before it totally gets in. Here it is direct to the sun. It's not too bad. Just at that random little angle it gets. And if you have like a little hood, you should be okay, or you could flag it with your hands. You see that? Flagging it with my hand right there. And then it goes away once it's right into the sun. So let's take a look at the image quality of this lens. Alright, this first photo is at f2.8 wide open, and this next one will be at f8. So just to see right off the bat, we can see that there is a difference in vignetting. The vignetting at f2.8 is pretty dark, and at f8 is less, but you can still tell it's sort of kind of there still. Okay, so wide open, we're going to look at the edges, and to be honest, these are not very sharp. They are okay. I mean, it's completely usable. on a 24 megapixel camera. Once I get to this area, okay, this 1/3 of it, it does get pretty good, but the edges, they are little bit soft, and the center is quite good. And this is on a 24 megapixel body. Yeah, the edges, you can tell there's a little bit of softening here. You can tell just by looking at the humans. Stop down to f8. Let's see if it improves. It's still not very good. So this lens doesn't behave much better stop down. It does get a tiny little bit better, but not by much. So it is what it is. If you're looking for the highest quality photography lens, this is not it. However, it's decent. It's decent image quality, and if you're okay with that, it's really good for video. It's just not spectacular for photos. Moving on, this one we're going to look at the sun stars. It's not very well defined, so if you're looking for a lens with great sun stars, this is not it. This is at f8. Here it is stopped down to f16, and even at f16 it's not very well defined, and so having great sun stars is not really a feature of this lens. I went back to this just to look at chromatic aberration. There is some wide open, as you can see here. Stop down, it's not really an issue, so just be careful when you're wide open. There is some chromatic aberration. It's not a ton, but there's just some worth mentioning. All right, in this next test, we're going to do an autofocus test, and pay attention to the audio the lens creates, because this lens can create a little bit of noise. It may or may not be a deal breaker for you. I'm going to boost the audio just a little bit so you can hear the noise. And before we go too much further, like and subscribe to my channel. I do more gear tips, tricks, and reviews. And let's get into the autofocus. Let's try low light. So I've got a light. I'm just gonna shine it on my wall. So this is really low light. Okay, for this low light test, I have the light shining at the corner wall. I'm at ISO 100,000 f2.8 1/50 shutter speed. I doubt it's working anymore, but this is the Samyang 24 F2.8 on the Sony a7S III, and guess what? I believe the autofocus is working. I just tapped to focus on myself. This is much lower light. You can see it right here. That's the only thing illuminating me. It looks really bright, but it's actually not bright at all. It's just the Elgato Stream Deck, and you know those things have lit up buttons. Well, it's not that bright. I mean, so I'm at ISO 100,000 102,400 1/50 f2.8. So it's and it seems like it can focus on me. It's not very good, but and it may need to tap to focus type of deal. Yeah, there's autofocus tracking on my eye in this really dark scenario. So I can't really tell if it's working good, but from my testing, this is a little bit of a game changer, because this lens seems much more capable on the Sony a7S III. It would struggle a lot more on the Sony a7 III, but on the Sony a7S III, it seems to behave a lot better. So if you're looking to get rid of this lens, or you're not really looking to buy it because of AF performance, it depends on body. So this lens comes in around 250 to 200, around that range. I think it's a great lens. It's very unintrusive. People aren't shying away from you because it's very small and very lightweight. It makes a great travel companion, and I do bring it along with me just because it's so small. It's f2.8, which is honestly bright enough for a full frame lens. The AF speed is good depending on body, and it becomes great depending on body. If you have a newer type body like this A7S Mark III, it can be really good. However, on the A7 Mark III, it can struggle in lower light. Something that I may have missed is that the manual focus ring is well dampened, and in general, it's a very good experience using manual focus with this lens. I don't have issues with it. Overall, this lens has been a great part of my kit. 24mm is wide enough for an establishing shot, and it doesn't distort too much when in video because you have the top and bottoms cropped. It's so small that I can just fit it into a little pouch and put it on my waist and then go about my days not having to worry anything. And once again, the price is just fantastic for this type of lens. And if you guys enjoyed this type of video, watch some more here or right here. Like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be doing more gear tips, tricks, and reviews. Stay tuned and come back for more. See ya.